Welcome everyone to our first interview here at Put Me On, and I'm your host Oriofe Daniel, and this is Put Me On, and here we talk about all things career and corporate. And so today we're going to be talking about how to land a job from someone's personal experience, and we have a guest, Ethan, who's going to be sharing his own personal experience with us, and we really just hope this is educative and just helpful to anyone who's going through the job search. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest, Ethan. If you don't mind, before we go into the main topic for today, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and just tell us what you're doing for work and just something you're excited for this year?
Yeah, of course. Thank you again for the inviting me on, and I'm really excited to get to potentially share some insight with everyone on the job search. But my name is Ethan. I professionally go by EJ. I am a recent MPH graduate. I finished my master's in public health at the Emory Rollins School of Public Health in Atlanta, Georgia, and just relocated to the Chattanooga area where I started my position as a workplace health and safety specialist for Amazon.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so just straight into like what we're going to talk about today. So the team were come across your LinkedIn post, and you made a post about like just how you navigated the crazy job market. And we just wanted to ask, take us back to like the postgraduate season. What were some of your expectations going into the job market and some of the realities you actually faced? And I know like a lot of people, this is a lot of reality, like a lot of graduates are facing right now. And so just share with us like some of the things that you personally felt.
Yeah. So I won't lie, I came into the postgraduate job market maybe a little naive. I kind of planned within a month and a half to be able to stick a job. And, I aggressively started applying about maybe 2 to 3 months before graduation. So I was looking at about 5 to 10 applications every week or two. And I went into the process thinking that I was going to be able to quickly find a job. And especially in public health, I think that reality was a little or a lot different. And
Yeah.
I, want to share that I feel for people who are going through the current job market as someone who just kind of escaped it and finally stuck a job at Amazon. It is tough, and it was a lot of imposter syndrome because I think we are kind of taught in our academia and in our graduate programs, the importance of networking and being able to have all these opportunities to work for local, state, or federal public health, and agencies. But it's a very saturated job market. I think there's a lot
Mm,
of us out there who are looking for work, and it's not going to necessarily come as quick as one might expect. And the importance of networking is so underlined. It is so important to get out there and do as much as you can to network.
that's pretty good. Okay, so we're going to talk about that networking piece in a few, but I just wanted to like kind of bring us back to the start. I think on your LinkedIn post, you have put like, 150 plus applications and like a lot of resume rewrites. So talk us through like, because 150 plus applications is a lot of applications and like, yeah, that's a lot. And honestly, that's probably what a lot of people have to do. So what was kind of your strategy with applications? Was it more of mass applying or just like strategic? And like, did it change over time?
Yeah. My methods and strategy definitely evolved as I kind of went through the process. At the beginning, I had kind of my resume template set up, something that I felt was applicable to a bunch of different industries and, application types. And I did kind of do the spray and pray, if you will, and just kind of sent out my resume and applications to anybody and
Mm.
everybody.
Yeah.
Um, while there is some potential benefit to that, I would err against doing that as,
Mm.
a professional, it's important to be able to take that extra time and focus your resume and focus your cover letter on the application and on the specific job posting that you are applying for, because
Mhm.
a lot of these jobs, they want to see individuals who are ready to hit every benchmark that they expect out of that role. And
Mhm.
so you are going to have to put in some extra, effort to adjust your resume and your cover letter to each position that you apply for.
Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so speaking about resume like revisions, because you just talked about like having at first you had like more of a generic template and where you just kind of send it out. So what are some of the like changes you made, I guess, to your resume or just resources you used to like update your resume that you felt like really increased your chances for having a successful interview or the job for the job?
Yeah. So I know Emory University at least provided us with an amazing career, uh, department at career services. And so I was able to send in my resume to their you know staff there, and they're able to give me tips on what to do. But to be able to share some insight with you guys, I think it's important to really, well, it depends on what industry you're applying to. If you're doing federal or state, there is kind of a standard as to how your resume should look, how those different job sections need to be outlined regarding, hours you worked in the shift, who your manager was, kind of,
Mm,
hit some star points in terms of like what you did and metrics and things like that.
mm,
That's dealing with the government, which tends to, I really
yeah.
recommend stick to the template that they provide on USA
Okay.
Jobs. When it comes to academia and private industry, I think that is when you really can have a little bit more flexibility in the structuring of your resume. And as long as you kind of hit those um, buzzwords, if you will, because
Yeah.
we're battling ATS right now. AI
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
kind of taken over that
Mm,
first round pass when it comes to resume review. And
yeah.
so don't lie. I'm never going to say, don't
Mm,
say or claim anything that you didn't actually do. But if there's some key words that you can pull out of a job description and
mm,
integrate that into your resume in a, truthful way, in an honest way, definitely do that, because that's going to be the way that you get your resume to an actual physical person and not just, it get passed aside by by an AI machine.
yeah, I totally agree. And thank you for that. I think what I'm giving for the audience is like tailor your resume to the specific industry. The different industries have like different styles of like resume and also put in buzzwords too. So that's really good. Okay. So
Definitely.
moving on to like the resume, moving on from the resume revisions to kind of the interview stages, right? So just curious, like from the like 150 plus applications, if you don't mind sharing, like how many interviews did you get? Any?
Yeah, so this is the funnel is a little maybe scary to hear, but out of my 150 plus applications I sent out, I think I was able to secure a total of 9 to 11 interviews, I think. So it's only about like 8 to 10%, rate
Mm,
in terms of moving on to that next step.
yeah.
Um,
Mm,
and I think that really goes to speak towards, the beast that is getting around that ATS first round of resume reviews in order to get that interview.
that's really good. So what are some of the things that you did that you feel like maybe made you successful in some interviews and maybe some not?
Preparation's the biggest thing. I know that's something that I feel like is kind of maybe obvious to some. Obviously, you want to prepare for an interview, but a lot of the times, in my experience, you get access to the name and even sometimes the contact information. Less so the contact information, but definitely the
Yeah.
person's name of the person that you're going to be interviewing with. And I would like fully recommend look them up on LinkedIn, look them up online, and maybe not reach out to them, but at least get some background information on who they are, where they went to school, what they do in terms of what they do for the company that you're applying for,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to see that personalization and that attention to who they are within the company, because at the end of the day, they're your future manager, your coworker, and so really taking in that intentional kind of step towards preparation for an interview is going to be what sets your interview apart from others.
Okay. So if someone in the audience is like, okay, I've been getting so many interviews but no offers, what would like you suggest? I know you've talked about a few things, but subject they like look at first or like, maybe do different based on your experience.
Yeah. I think, a lot of the times it depends on how many rounds there are. For example, some companies I interviewed with, I didn't end up getting to the final like offer or, rejection phase until 4 rounds in. And so that can sometimes be a lot of burden on, the applicant. And
Yeah.
so I think what really sets you apart on top of the preparation, like actually in the interview, is your ability to have a conversation. Because I think it's very easy to get the question, already have your, response kind of planned out. And that sounds, I mean, robotic. It sounds like you
Robotic.
are just answering the question and moving on. And you want to try and build a rapport and try and be personable with your interviewer and have a conversation. I mean, at the end of the day, they want to see what you're like day to day and not what you're like on a resume, because your day to
Mm,
day is going to be who you are as an employee. And so that's going to be what's going to set you apart.
okay. That's really good because I feel like many of the I guess jobs I've gotten, like the interviews I've always successfully done, they're always because I had a conversation or like I enjoyed, like you could tell when you finish an interview and that felt more like a conversation rather than just a interview.
Yeah.
But speaking of like, kind of you're talking about the burden of, interviewing and everything. I know, during the long job search, like it can take a toll on someone. How did you like navigate rejection and what were some of the things you kind of um, did to work through that?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, when you get that rejection email, I think once you get to or call, once you get to that interview level, you're not necessarily dealing with automated, because sometimes you'll
Mm-hmm.
send out an application and you're just going to get an automated, like, we decided to move on with a candidate who more closely aligns with our needs. That's, you're not going to get a response if you email them
Yeah.
back typically. But when you get to like interviewing and you have typically a hiring manager or a recruiter that has that contact information available, reach out and ask them, well, one, thank them for their time. And I think secondly, prioritize asking them what you could do differently. And I know it's hard, what dealing with rejection to immediately, you know, almost ask for, what to work on, because you're dealing with that rejection and you're like, oh, now I gotta, go back to the drawing board. But I think to be able to navigate this job market in today's, world, you have to kind of have that resilience, and that's not something that
Mhm.
is natural, or that someone might have those personal skills built up or those understandings. And so on the flip side, I'd say also take care of yourself. Take the time that
Mhm.
you might need. Typically I felt like a lot of those emails came on a month, like a Friday at the end of the work week. Hey, we're decided to move on with someone else. Take that weekend, respond, thank them for their time, get maybe some, feedback if you can, but then take that weekend for yourself to, um, you know, navigate the rejection and, come back the next week ready to keep going. And it's easier said than done.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's possible, and rely on your support system at home and with your friends.
Okay. That's really good. Okay. Speaking of support system, I know that, a lot of, I don't know about you, but like, in school, you talk about, using your LinkedIn, using your network and all of those things. So talk to me about, how important your network was and how did you kind of leverage them?
Yeah. Out of those 9 to 11 interviews that I was able to get, I'd say half of them came because of my network. And it's easy to say network, 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 but what does networking look like? And that really depends on the industry. I know in public health, specifically, there is opportunities, especially at the graduate level, to engage with professors, to engage with different professional organizations that partner with your university. That's another great resource. If they have, I don't know, at Emory we call them vaccine club dinners, which were an opportunity for professionals to come together and have the hors d'oeuvres and the light
Yeah.
snacks and chit chat. But that was also, at that same token, an opportunity to start identifying projects and opportunities that they might have for you to go ahead and join their team. So I think that is one really great resource. LinkedIn, I think, can sometimes be fed into the mass exposure that we get to social media and things like that. And that's where I think it kind of circles back to what I said earlier about it being intentional about how you use LinkedIn and making those connections with people that are, your second or third by saying, hey, I saw you also are an alumni of, my case, Emory University. I'm also in the area. I would love to give, 15 minutes of your time maybe for us to grab a virtual coffee and chat more about what you have going on. And that's another great opportunity to network and get some insight into some opportunities that are available.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is like, because I do think, there's a there's a place for like kind of cold messaging people, but also, there's the balance with that in the sense of like they might not receive that well because they don't know you.
Mhm.
So I guess, what was your experience? Did you ever like cold email or cold message anybody? And like, even with, LinkedIn, like with posting, I guess sometimes, they say post and, make yourself visible with all of those things. What do you think about that? And what was your experience with
Yeah. So when it comes to cold emails and cold messages, I would, at least I personally stuck within my network in the sense that I was only really reaching out to Emory University, and Mercer is where I went and did my undergrad. Emory and Mercer University alumna and professors. That's where I kind of stuck in my lane when it came to sending out cold messages, just because it comes across as insincere or odd to get a random message from somebody who doesn't have any sort of connection geographically or academically to you, asking for a job. That's not necessarily the best approach to doing that.
that?
So I definitely stuck within that network. But I think the best thing, if you're reaching out to your fellow alumni or professors at school, they might not have something for you, but include in that email. But if you know of anybody else who might be having any opportunities coming up, please connect me and kind of use them as like a intermediary middleman kind of
Yeah.
space to be able to expand out and reach people that you might not necessarily have had access to originally.
I really like that. So, like, just maximizing your own network and, telling them that if you know people who are in this, and then letting them be the ones to kind of connect you to that. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So for like your job search, what what do you feel like are like the two or three things, maybe a combination of things, but like to finally get that offer or like that job, what do you think, kind of ultimately helped you get that offer, Yeah, if you want to share.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, kind of identify And a lot, at least within, I guess, always going to circle back to public health because it's
Mhm.
what I know. Kind of identify some common titles or job titles that are going to be related to your degree program or to your professional experience that you built up so far. But then, in addition to that, because you can only type in epidemiologist like so many times into a search bar on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and only a certain amount of job offers are gonna or job opportunities are gonna pop up. Um, Look to see if there's any other related things. So, like for example, I'm workplace health and safety. That position never would have popped up if I just typed in, you know, environmental epidemiologist, because that's
Mhm.
like those are two very different things. But what I'm doing as a specialist is very related to my academic background, and the way that I was able to identify that was do your research. I mean, there's going to be the resources available to you through your career department and career development team at university, or what other resources put me on, any other repositories for that information. But I mean, I do think that, for lack of a better term, there's effort that you need to put in, and do the research to try and identify what other opportunities might not necessarily be as obvious, because those unique or different jobs are going to be the ones that you might be able to finally break through, just like I did, and secure a job with.
That's really good because it kind of leads me to a question of, I think as an MPH person myself, um, I think I was very like curious when I saw your like background as environmental and then saw you like, your job title at Amazon, and it didn't seem like that was, that's not the kind of traditional role you would see somebody with that degree. So kind of, I know you've kind of touched on it, but like kind of expand on how you positioned yourself with your background and kind of positioned yourself to get that role with Amazon, and how did you kind of do
Yeah. So, I think within public health, one of the first kind of things that I remember learning in undergrad and at Mercer, my intro to global health class, was almost everything can be a health job. You know, um, the field of public health touches so many different aspects of life. And so when I got this position with Amazon at workplace health and safety, you know, industrial health, occupational epidemiology, those are things that are specific subfields of public health, of environmental epidemiology. And so the way that I was able to position myself is I took the skills that I learned in my public health program and focused in on how I could take my data skills with R and Python, my ability to use frameworks like environmental justice or social determinants of health, and apply those frameworks to the needs of the company. And so, yeah, I'm coming in as an MPH graduate. That's not necessarily something that they see often
it?
on a warehouse floor, because I do work in a warehouse. But the skills are still needed. They still need data. They still need dashboards to be made and things of that nature. So applying those skills are what going to allow you to break into these non-traditional opportunities.
Okay, that's really good. Okay. So, I'm hearing like using kind of looking for the skills you have and kind of seeing how they can meet the needs of whatever industry or company you're looking to get into. So that's really good.
Definitely.
Okay. So kind of a few last things. Kind of what would you what kind what are some of the things you wish you knew like before you started your job search this year? Yeah.
Yeah. First and foremost, that it's not as easy as I think at least, and this could have just been my own personal naivety, but I really thought, I did the work. I've been in school for now 7 years total after graduating high school. I got the degree. I did the internships. I did everything. Why is this not kind of like coming to me on a silver platter?
Mm,
And, I think what is something that is an important thing that I wish I had known is you are competing against a lot of really, really, really impressive and varied and unique learned experiences that everyone else has. I mean, it's kind of taking a step back and taking a more external viewpoint instead of an internal viewpoint, thinking like, oh, I did it. I did what I needed to do. So did everyone else. Everyone else did what they needed to do. And so to be able to have that perspective, I think definitely would have helped me be a little bit more, um, aggressive in the sense of being a go-getter and not just expecting something to land on my plate. And I am hoping that the audience isn't as naive as I was, and then I'm
yeah,
hoping that maybe my words can help shift some of those thinkings to we all did it, we all did the work. Now it's time to just find our place, and it's like I said, it's easier said than done, but it's possible.
that's pretty good. Thank you. Okay, so kind of to any last thing you want to add before I go to our last question? Anything you feel like, somebody I'm encouraged by or benefit from? Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in any clubs in school, any of those organizations, re-network, reconnect. I think that's another big thing. Once you are in your master's program, it might have been a couple years since you were in undergrad. Go back to those people and try and reconnect with the people, because if they were your friends then, or if they were your organization leaders or anything like that at that time, they're gonna people are gonna want to help. I think that's a big thing, is to rely on a network that is waiting for you. That support
Mhm.
system is waiting for you. You just have to take that step and ask for help. I think that's my biggest advice, is we all want to see each other succeed, and
Mm.
just taking that step to make sure that you connect with those people, I think is going to be really beneficial in the long run.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So to end this episode, I put me on we're all about resources. So what's a resource? It could be like a person, a community, a podcast or something. A resource that has really been instrumental in helping you become the professional that you are today. Yeah, share.
Yeah, I'll kind of highlight two. One will be the Career Services Department at Emory University. I think everybody who is currently a student, your school should have that. If not, reach out to professors or your department that you might be studying under. There should be some sort of resource there available. And if not, then access, these volunteer organizations like Put Me On, or, you know, um, some of the other things that they have on LinkedIn specifically. I think LinkedIn has really developed its resource, repository, and how it has the ability to connect people to the resources that they need. So that's definitely one. And then the other is, you know, take time to access the different like job boards and things like that outside of LinkedIn. Don't just focus on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a great resource to find jobs, but start going. If you have identified a short list of companies that you feel like you really want to work for, go to their own site and start looking specifically on those, because those are going to have some more updated information that might not make it to some of those big LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, things like that. So again, I think it really circles back to what I said earlier in this show, was be intentional, and be, very specific and tailored to your search. And that's gonna, you're your own resource, I think, with that, in that case.
Yeah.
And you'll be successful.
Okay. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
EJ. Okay, EJ.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and thank you to our audience for listening. Yeah, so this is, and if you have any questions or comments, just type them down in the comments and we're going to respond to them. So thank you.